Hey, this is American Lawn Sale Fan, and I haven't made a video in a while, so I decided to take some old footage that I had of a fairly recent purchase that I made, a new firearm, or it was used. This new firearm is, it's a little rare, but I wouldn't say it's so rare that it's worth a lot of money. But I do think it's unique. I do think it's a very, very, very good firearm. If you see one used in your local gun store, know that it's no longer in production and that you should pick it up, especially if it's a good price. So let me go ahead and show you a quick picture of the new firearm and see what you think. Okay, so probably for those of you who know Smith and Wesson firearms pretty well, you're probably looking at me and going, what? It's a Model 66, no big deal. Well, here's another shot at it. So right now you're probably saying, was that 7 chambers in that cylinder that I saw? Well, yes, you did. But you're thinking it's not a 686 plus 620, which was only in production for a couple of years, about 2005 to 2009. They didn't make a whole lot, and understandably, there was a reason for that, but I think that they should have kept it going because this is really a solid revolver, and I'm going to show you why I like it so much.
Okay, first and foremost, the Smith & Wesson Model 620 is, first of all, it is an L-frame gun. Now that you're looking at it up close, you can tell this is not a K-frame, but it's not exactly an L-frame either. And if you know anything about kind of the history of Smith & Wesson revolvers, you know that the 357 came out in the mid-30s, I believe it was 1936, and the first gun it was chambered in was an N-frame gun, the Model 27. And that gun is a really nice gun, but it's really massive. The good news is that with let me back up a little bit. The 27, the first gun chamber for the 357, keep in mind that gun was designed for a large caliber gun, 44 and 45. So when you stuck the 357 in it, you had a lot of excess steel, which made it very heavy but very durable. You fast forward later to when Smith & Wesson was coming out with the Model 19 and the Model 66, which was 357 in a smaller K-frame. They did have some problems. It was a nice gun, but the potent loads of the 357, particularly in 125 grain, really started to rattle the inside of the K-frame. So sometimes it would knock it out of tuning, and if you know about servicing Smith & Wessons, yeah, you would have to go ahead and pull the grip off, unscrew the side plate. Don't try to pry it off, but take usually a wood handle and tap the grip frame, and the thing would just pop. And then you could go in, it would allow you access to the inner parts, and you could replace them, and hopefully that would go back into place. But another problem that the K-frame had is it would really damage the forcing cone with a steady diet of 357. So most people who had the Model 19 or they used to call it the Combat Magnum, or the Model 66 in the stainless, what they would do is fire mostly 38 special in it, and then just know that it could fire 357 if you had to. Well, Smith & Wesson later came up with the L frame, which is in between the K and the N. But more importantly, it was the first time Smith & Wesson really designed a handgun for the 357 specifically, in terms of making sure that everything was designed to handle the loads and yet still be a mid-caliber kind of pistol. So the L frames are really durable, really well made, but they're not quite as slim or as streamlined as, say, your K-frame. Little heavy, nothing major. I think they're good service size gun. So what this was is essentially, if you want to call it, this is if you break it down, this gun is essentially a 686 plus one, or sorry, 686 plus, meaning it has 7 rounds in the cylinder, and it doesn't have a full underlug barrel. So it takes off some of the weight, which is fine for me because it makes it more comfortable to shoot, and the size of the L frame plus the nice grip makes it at least controllable. And I've kind of like this better than the 686. Just gives it a better streamlined look, takes off some of the excess weight without too much, and it's really well done. Keep in mind this is 2000 Smith and Wesson, so there's a couple things like this ridiculous lock that they put it on. Of course, the barrel is typical of 2000, so it's not a one piece. And yes, even here they've got the firing pin is attached actually to the frame. It's not attached to the hammer. So yeah, I wish they had made this in more of the classical dimensions, but it is what it is. I think had this gun come out in the 80s or even the 70s, I think it would be a far more prized possession. But right now, like I said, they only made it for a couple years, and the reason they dropped it was pretty obvious. It's most people who would look for something like this would just go with a 686, or they would downsize and go with a 66. So this didn't really serve a purpose. But like I said, I think it's a perfect balance of everything. It's got a nice feel, nice balance, still controllable, still durable enough to handle any of the loads. And yeah, the added plus is 7 shots instead of 6. Another interesting thing about these 7 shots versus 6, if you notice, what it does is it offsets the bolt notches so they're not up here along the chamber, making it a very thin part. It's in between, so there's more steel here. I don't know if that makes a huge difference in its durability, but it's kind of neat. And you know, it just feels good in the hand, locks up very nice. There's no play in the cylinder really. There is here, which is fine, but the real test is how good is the lockup just before it releases that hammer. So let me show you a couple of shots I have of when I first took it to the range, and then I'll come back and talk to you more about it. Seven shots, feet away. So a little high. It's probably more me than the gun, although I could adjust the sights. Not bad. Very accurate. Hey, so once again, like I said, if you happen to find this, like I said, it's no longer in production, but if you happen to be going to your local gun store and find a 620 out there, they also made a 619, which is essentially the same thing, only there's no shroud over the ejector rod. It just locks into the front piece. If you find either a 619 or a 620 particularly, I would tell you, go ahead and get it. It just is a perfect blend, in my opinion, of comfort, enough, fills your hand enough, still controllable, very, very accurate. It's not really going to be a concealed carry gun. It's a little big for that. But certainly as a backpack gun, as a service gun, or as just a home defense gun,
I think it's going to be pretty tough to beat. So that's all I got. Like I said, 620, great revolver. I wish they still made them, but at least I got my hands on one. All right. God bless you and those you love.